When God remembered us. A 10-year journey from barrenness to blessing. The wedding was beautiful. Daniel and Sarah stood before God and their loved ones, promising to love and cherish each other forever. As they danced that night, they whispered about the future, about the laughter of children filling their home, about tiny feet pattering across the floor, about bedtime stories and lullabies. They were young, in love, and full of dreams. But life had other plans. The waiting begins. Months passed. Then a year. Then 2. No pregnancy. At first, they brushed it off. God's time is the best, Sarah would say with a hopeful smile. But deep inside, a tiny seed of worry began to grow. Then the questions started. When will you give us a grandchild? Daniel's mother asked one evening, her tone sharp, her eyes filled with expectation. Sarah forced a smile. Soon, Mama. Keep praying for us. But as the years went by, the whispers turned into outright mockery. At family gatherings, Sarah could feel the stares, hear the hushed conversations that stopped when she walked in. One of Daniel's cousins sneered one night during dinner, his voice laced with cruel amusement. Maybe you should check yourself, Daniel. Are you even capable? Laughter erupted around the table. Daniel's jaw tightened, his hands clenched into fists under the table. He said nothing, but Sarah saw the hurt flash in his eyes. She, too, wasn't spared. Church, the one place she had sought comfort, became a source of pain. One Sunday, as she stood among the women after service, she heard the words that shattered her heart. A woman who cannot bear children is like a tree without fruit. The words cut deep, leaving an open wound. She bit her lip to stop the tears from spilling, but when she got home, she collapsed onto the floor and wept. The struggle and the shame. Daniel saw the pain in his wife's eyes. He saw how she avoided gatherings, how she smiled less, how the once vibrant woman he married was slowly fading under the weight of shame. He, too, carried the burden. The elders of his family called him aside one evening. A man must have a child to carry on his name, one of them said. Consider taking another wife. Daniel clenched his jaw, his heart pounding. Never, he said, his voice firm. Sarah is my wife. She is enough. But the pressure did not stop. Every conversation, every visit, came with subtle, or not so subtle, suggestions. Still, Daniel held firm. The last hope. They visited doctors, specialists, even herbalists, anyone who could offer a glimmer of hope. Each time, the results were the same. Unexplained infertility. They fasted. They prayed. They cried. Nothing. 10 years passed. 10 years of pain, mockery, and silent nights of holding each other, wondering if God had forgotten them. Then, one day, everything changed. The miracle. Sarah had given up on checking for pregnancy symptoms. She had lost count of the time she had taken a test, only to be crushed by a single, lonely line. But this time, something felt different. She was late. She told herself not to hope, not to dream. But her hands still trembled as she reached for the test. She closed her eyes, too afraid to look. Minutes passed. Slowly, she opened her eyes. 2 lines. Her breath hitched. Her vision blurred as tears filled her eyes. Daniel, she called, her voice shaking. Come here. He rushed in, his heart pounding. What's wrong? He asked. She turned the test toward him, her hand still unsteady. For a moment, he just stared. The room was silent, except for the sound of their uneven breaths. Then, his knees buckled. He fell to the ground, his hands covering his face as his body shook with sobs. God, thank you. Thank you. 9 months later, their home, once filled with silence, echoed with the cries of a newborn baby girl. The same people who mocked them now came bearing gifts. The same voices that whispered about them now rejoiced with them. At the naming ceremony, Sarah held her daughter close, tears slipping down her cheeks as she whispered, You were worth every tear, every prayer, every moment of waiting. And as Daniel wrapped his arms around his wife and child, he smiled and said, God's time is always perfect.